Hi everybody, this is Tracy with Popup Paint Studio, and I'm doing a tutorial today on the sandcastle design that we have available with our art kits. So if you have your kit and you've opened it up, you're going to see that you have a 12 by 12 canvas, stretched canvas with your design imprinted on it. You're also going to have a copy of your design that you have, and you can set it up there like that to be able to look at it as you paint. This is an actual painting that we've already done, so I'm just having that up for reference for you. Also in your kit, you're going to get the colors that you need to create this design. And what I want you to do is, with the paper plate that's included with your kit, yours is going to probably be white. I want you to open up your paints. You may need help with that because those lids are nice and tight on there. And then I want you to set the lids next to the color, because the lids have the name of the color, and I'll be referring to those colors, and then you'll know which color to use. So set them on there, make sure they're on your paper plate. That way it kind of keeps things from getting too messy. And just set them right there next to you. Also in your kit, you're going to get a sponge. Every kit always comes with a sponge, and I'll show you what that's for later. You'll also get 5 brushes in your kit. We're going to call them the large flat brush, the large round brush. We've got a small flat brush, a small round brush, and then a detail brush for all your small details. And I'm going to set them right over here in my little mug. Bessie made me a new mug at the pottery shop, and I love it. So I'm just putting my brushes in there today. You'll also get a paper towel with your kit. You'll need more paper towels, probably at least one more paper towel, I would say. And then you get a disposable apron in your kit, and make sure that you wear that, because this paint will stain your clothes, and you don't want to do that. If you don't clean it up quickly, it can stain things. So secure your area of anything that you don't want to get paint on it. Okay, so we're getting ready to paint our sandcastle. Cute. And the first brush that we're going to be using is our large flat brush. And we're going to be using our very lightest blue, and we're going to be painting our sky. So find the one that says light blue. You've got a light blue and what is called a dark blue mix, but it's not much darker than the light blue, so be careful about that. If you get them mixed up, it's not the end of the world, no worries. But go to your light blue mix, and we're going to paint that sky. And we're just going to paint it back and forth. Let me turn that light on there. There, it's a little bit better. There we go. Just dip it in there, back and forth. Now this painting is your painting, and you can do whatever you want to it. So remember that as you go through the painting process. If you want to put some little white clouds in your sky, you have some white paint there, and you're welcome to do that. So at any time you want to add something to your painting or change the way we're painting, and we're just painting down to our horizon line right here. This is where the water line is going to start, way back there, the ocean water line. And so we're going to go all the way down to the line and even cover up that black line. Just cover it up a little bit. Also, if you want to paint over the edges of your canvas, this is a stretched canvas, so you have edges right here, and you can go right here and paint over the edges. Just make sure your table, there's something on your table to keep it from getting paint on it, because the paint will get on your table. But if you paint around the edges, when you're done and you hang it up, it looks so much more finished. So think about that. And you can always do that when you're finished with the front if you want to stay with me, because I'm not going to paint the edges right now just for time's sake. All right, so I've got my sky in there. And if I wanted to, I would dip my brush in a little bit of white maybe, and put a little bit of white in there just to give it a little bit of extra. There, a little bit of white streak of cloud in there. Okay, so we're going to rinse this brush, and we're going to use our dark raw sienna paint. It says dark raw sienna. But first we're going to rinse that brush and we're going to wipe it off. And just wipe it with your paper towel like that. And find what is your dark raw sienna. It's not much different than your light raw sienna, so make sure that you have the right one. And we're going to paint the sand. So we're going to get in the dark raw sienna, and we're going to come down here at the bottom, and we're going to paint the sand. And you can go right over the bottom of the castle. We're going to paint right up there to that area right there where the water's going to come down on the sand. But you can paint right over the castle to get this area. That's okay. If you want to go around it, the castle, you can go around it too. But the cool thing about acrylic paint is you can paint a background color and then you can paint things on top of that color. So it's no problem as long as you give it time to dry. So we'll give that plenty of time to dry before we paint over it. If we don't have time to let it dry, then we'll go around it. Okay, and remember, if you want to paint the edges, go ahead and paint the edges if you want to when you paint the sand. Okay, we're going to go right over that black line, cover that black line up a little bit. All right. All right, now we're going to rinse that brush again. Rinse, rinse, rinse. And we're going to wipe it off. Now, for the very back of our water, as you can see here, the very back of the water is a lot darker than the rest of the water. And if you look out in the ocean at certain times, that's what it looks like. It looks like the back is a lot darker. So we're going to take our cobalt blue. It's the darkest blue that you have in your paint kit. And we're going to put a little bit of that dark blue on our brush. And I'm going to put my brush like this to make this background, because it's kind of hard sometimes to brush it on like this. If you want to, you can. But sometimes it's easier for me just to lay my brush like that and kind of go along that line. And it doesn't really matter what it looks like underneath there, because we're just going to blend that color in with some more colors. So we're just trying to get that straight as we can line. And if it gets a little bit rough, that's okay. Sometimes the ocean gets rough out there. Just move it along there to get that background color in there good. And if you went over your line, you should still be able to see it good enough to get that background color in there. All right, so there we go with that. Now, okay. Now we're going to rinse that brush, wipe it off, and we're going to go to the dark blue mix. Now it doesn't look very dark because the water is not very dark here, but it is a little bit darker than the sky. So it's called the dark blue mix. Put your brush in there and we're going to paint the rest of the water. And you can go over a little bit of, you can go over your little flags, go up here and meet that blue water and kind of blend it in. Get some more of that. We're just kind of blending it into that dark blue. While it's still wet, it'll kind of blend. You just keep brushing it across. And you see how it kind of blends in there so there's no hard lines showing. And we're just going to continue down. Now at this point, you don't have to go over your whole castle. Get close enough so that you can see where your castle is for painting it. But we don't want to go over the whole castle only because I'm not going to have time to let it dry on my end. You will, but I'm not. So if you want to go over the whole castle when you're not painting with me, you go ahead and go over the whole castle. Because once it dries, you'll be able to see through and you can paint the castle over the top of it. But since I don't think that that blue is going to dry by the time I'm ready to paint it, I'm just going to get close to it, but I'm not going to paint the whole thing. All right. I hope you understood what I meant by that. Like this way I don't have to wait for all this to dry. I just have to wait for these little edges to dry. And we're taking that water all the way down to the sand. All the way down to the sand. Just blend it right in there to the sand. And it's okay if I go over the sand a little bit. Because that's what the water does. It goes right over the sand. Oops, I got a little bit of paint right here on my sand, but this is a good opportunity for me to show you what that sponge is for. Okay, so if you get some paint somewhere that you don't want it, you see that paint right there on my sand? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some clean water. This is not clean water, but that's normally what I would do, is get clean water, put it on my sponge, and just wipe it off. Look how it came right off. And then all I have to do is go back in and get that sand color, that dark raw sienna, and just paint it right over. And there you go, all fixed. So if you get your mark that you don't like, if you get it quick enough and wipe it off, it'll come off. If you let it dry too long, it may not come off. So as soon as you see something you don't like, grab that sponge, get it wet with clean water, don't use dirty water like I did, and squeeze it out really good and just wipe it off real quick. And then just rinse your sponge and it'll be ready for the next boo-boo. Okay, so now we've got the water done, and now the next step, let me put that dirty brush in the water. Always put your dirty brushes in the water. And we're going to take our large round brush, mine is dirty because I used it to repair my sand. So I had to clean mine off. Yours should be clean. Okay, and we are going to use our white, and we're going to do what we call stippling. And what that is you put a little bit of white on your brush, and then we're going to blot a little bit of it off because you don't want it to be too thick. And we're just going to dot little white waves on the bottom of our ocean, on our water that's coming in onto the beach has little white waves on it, and you can see them right here. Just stipple them on. Make it kind of noisy. Do as many as you want, or as few as you want, and just button up right next to the castle there. And over here, same thing. Just big old waves splashing in. And if you want to, you can put some of those little stipply marks out in the water. Just move your brush along and just stipple it across, moving it back and forth so it doesn't make the same pattern all the time. Very nice. Yeah, I like that. All right. Now we're going to rinse that brush off. And we're going to take our large flat brush. Let me put that back. The large flat brush, which is in your dirty water. There it is. Wipe it off. And we're going to take the light raw sienna color. It's the lightest kind of tan color. And we're going to paint the castle. Now, when you get to the little areas, the little up and down, I don't even know what you call those things. I'm sure there's a name for them. I need to Google that. You may need to switch to your small flat brush. That might fit in those areas a little bit better, and you're welcome to do that. But for the main part of the sandcastle, I'm going to use the large flat brush. And I'm just going to paint it in right over the top of the sand color. I am not going to paint the doors or the windows, okay? Don't paint the doors or the windows. I'm sitting here thinking, normally I suggest things that you can paint extra on your canvases, because that's always fun to add your own touch, things that you like. And this is a good one for that, because you can paint starfish, or you can paint fish out in the ocean, like a whale going by. You can do sailboats. I mean, there's just so many things. Birds in the sky. And go over the black on your windows. By the time we paint the windows in, you won't even see that black anymore. All right, we're going right around here. What else could we put on this painting? And how you would do that, don't just jump right in. Think about what you want to do. Wait for your painting to dry. Just keep painting with me. Let's go ahead and finish this. Wait for it to dry. And then you can take either a piece of chalk or, and the reason I say chalk is because chalk will wipe off of acrylic paint once it's dry. Now, if you use a pencil, that will be there forever. So if you're very confident in what you're drawing, you definitely can use a pencil, but chalk will wipe off. So you just draw your design on your dried painting and then paint it, and then when it dries, you just wipe off the chalk if there's any left over. And if you don't see a color that you like, think about mixing colors. You can always make colors lighter and darker. All right, I think I'm getting to the point where I may need a smaller brush. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw that large brush in. Now, this is not on the directions, the written directions that come with this kit. So just know that anytime that you're not feeling the brush, it's just not working for you, it's not getting in the area or whatever, you switch to whatever brush you want. The only thing I would suggest is that when you're not using a brush, that you leave it in your water. Because if this paint dries on the brush, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to clean it out. Okay? Otherwise, you can clean it out with water if you get it while it's wet. So these brushes right here will last you a long time if you just wash them, rinse them off, and let them dry. And they'll be ready for the next time. Just don't let paint dry up in them. All right. So these should be, I should just be able to stick my brush like this up in these little areas. And sometimes your brush will get kind of gobby with paint, and you just need to wipe it out. Wipe it out, and then you can get rid of some of this gobby area, because you want your paint to be nice and smooth. All right, it's getting tricky here. I'm going to have to be quiet so I can get this done right. And whenever it dries, you can go over it with a second coat for sure. You could definitely add more windows to your sandcastle and just kind of make your sandcastle more interesting. And if you're just, I wanted to mention that if you're just watching this video and you have not bought a paint kit, you don't need a paint kit to create something cool. And you can create this sandcastle. You know, it's really just kind of a rectangle with these little knots on the top and a line here. Very simple to copy. You can paint it, or you can use your markers. Just draw it in and paint it with us. Yeah. You can use markers to create this design. You can use crayons, or you can use the paint colors that you have. If you have paint, you don't have the exact colors, it doesn't matter. There's no rules about painting. Except I see right here that I missed a little area of water. And that was the darker blue mix, right? So I'm going to go in here, and right between these, maybe they're called turrets? I don't know. Anyway, that popped in my head. Right between these little things on the top of this castle, I forgot to paint in the water right there. Okay, so I'm going to put that in the water. I've got it dirty. I'm going to put it in the water. All right, back to finishing. What was I saying? Oh yeah, you can paint. You can paint, you can draw. Most artists draw their designs before they paint it. So that's not cheating. That's one of the rules I loved about painting, that there are no rules. No rules. If you can pick up a brush or a pencil or anything and make a mark, you're an artist. And the more you do it, the better you get. That's the thing. That's true about anything. Even being an artist. If you want to be an artist, just keep drawing. And I think, you're born an artist, for heaven's sakes. People tell themselves they aren't artists. And they really are. All right, I think I got it all now. I know that in some areas I probably could use a second coat. So if you feel like that, just let it dry and do a second coat before you continue. So I'm throwing that brush in the water. And we are going to use the large round brush. Large round. All right, there it is. And we're going to wipe it off. If you need a second paper towel, I think I'm on my second already. You may still be using your first. Okay. Now what we're going to do is the same thing that we did on the waves. We're going to do on the castle. You see how it looks like there's darker areas on the castle? That's because, sand, when it's wet, like when the water's on it, it gets darker in some areas. As it starts drying, it's lighter. So you're going to have that contrast, dark and light. So that's what we're going to do now. And we are going to use this dark brown, this burnt umber, and we're going to put our large brush in that paint a little bit. And then we're really going to dab it off, because we don't want dark brown dots like that. We want very light brown dots. So we're not only going to brush it off once, we're going to brush it off a lot there until I'm just getting barely a little bit of paint coming off. And we're just going to go on here and we're just going to stipple our sandcastle. You see how just a little bit of paint is coming off? That's what I want. All right, so I'm going to go back in here and get some paint, a little bit on my brush. Get a lot of it off. And go in here and stipple. We're going around. And you can turn that brush. You don't want those marks to all look the same. We're trying to be very random here. That's how nature is, random. All right. Maybe one more time. blot it off. Really blot it off. Okay. Go in here. Ooh, that got a little bit darker. Okay. And the harder you push, the more it's going to come out. All right. Kind of liking that. All right, rinse, rinse, rinse your brush when you're happy with that. And now we're going to use our small round brush, the small round brush, and we're going to use our dark raw sienna paint to paint the windows. Now we use that for our sand, same color, and we're going to paint the doors and windows, or the door and windows. And go ahead and go over that black line. There we go. And this black line. And just kind of mix it into the sand there. There we go. Now this guy, this is a little bit streaky, so I would definitely suggest doing a second coat. All right, and then get the windows. And with the Sandcastle, they do not have to be perfect. You wouldn't expect a Sandcastle to have perfect windows. See, I'm not even worried about that. It got a little bit larger, but that's okay, because it's a Sandcastle. It's super cute. And if you wanted to do more windows, you could go right over the top. If you want to draw it first, you could, because this paint will go right over the top. In fact, I'll just do a little one maybe right here. Maybe you want one underneath here, and I can just do it right over the top. You see? It'll show up right over the top. So if you want to do extra stuff, you certainly can do that. It got a little bit crooked, but that's all right. All right, so now we're going to take the detail brush. Let me set that next to the right one. The detail brush, the smallest brush you have. All right, and we are going to take that dark brown burnt sienna, and we're going to paint the flagpoles. So take your time, and you can see them right through that water. If you can't, if you want to see them better, just take a pencil and go over it. But I know you can see it. And honestly, if you can't see it and it's that covered up, you can just take a pencil and draw you in a flagpole thing, because it doesn't even matter if it's that gone. All right, and here's my other flagpole. Ooh. I'm going to get a little bit shaky. There we go. Let's just make it a little bit fatter. How about that? Okay, perfect. All right, now not throw it, but rinse it off. Rinse that one off, wipe it off, and we're going to paint the flags, the orange flags. Now, if you can do it with your small square brush, that's fine, but I found that when I was doing it, to get that point, you definitely need the detail brush. So it's up to you, whatever you want to do. And like I said, if you can't see those flags, then just go in there and draw them over again. If you can't see them good. And if you can't see them at all, definitely go in there and do them again. All right, there's one. And there's the other. And if you think you might need a second coat, you just let that dry and do yourself a second coat. And go in there and add all your fun little details. You can do something like this flag. If you turned it sideways, that just looks like a sailboat, for heaven's sakes. So all you'd have to do is just make a little cup underneath for the bottom, and you've got a sailboat. You could put that out there in the water. Little birds, all they look like is just little, like this. One frowny face and another frowny face. And that makes like a seagull flying across. You could do it with white, or you could do it with the dark brown. So that's kind of a fun addition. You can make a starfish. You know what starfish look like, just a star. Just draw it in and then paint it in with your lighter colors. But whatever you do, I know it's beautiful, and definitely sign your work here at the bottom. Take that detail brush and some dark color and put your name on there so you can remember. And I just appreciate y'all painting with me, and thank you very much, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.